Hi, it's Nick again with CU Imaging. Today I'd like to show you how to use the Axion scanner to record and sync magnetic soundtracks from your film. This is done with the optional magnetic audio modules, which are available in 16mm or 8mm formats. The 8mm magnetic audio module can read soundtracks on standard 8 or Super 8 film. Magnetic soundtracks are the most common type of soundtrack found on Super 8 film, and are the only sound format that was available on standard 8. On 16mm, optical soundtracks were more common, but magnetic soundtracks did appear in some cases where audio quality was a priority, like for music, as well as in commercial on-location applications like news segments and documentaries. Films with magnetic soundtracks will have brown-colored stripes down the edges, with a wider stripe on this side containing the audio, and a thinner stripe on this side next to the perforations, called the balance stripe, which was just there to help the film wind evenly. This brown material is iron oxide tape, just like you would see in cassettes or open-reel tape formats. Like all of these formats, the sound is read from a magnetic soundtrack using a tape head. The Axion scanner's magnetic audio modules have one here in this adjustable carrier block. The module installs on the scanner while powered off by removing these covers and securing it with these two screws. The film is passed through the module like this, going around this encoder wheel before passing over the tape head. We'll take a look at what that encoder wheel is for a little later. We can then install this felt pressure pad over the soundtrack. You may also recognize this from cassette tapes, and it's the same thing and serves the same purpose, keeping the medium in good contact with the tape head. Unlike when we looked at optical audio tracks, which are just captured in the normal image overscan area, magnetic audio needs to be recorded in real time to an independent audio file that we capture separately and simultaneously with the image scan. In AxionDirect, I can start recording magnetic audio by activating the magnetic audio panel here in the bottom right corner, selecting my audio devices, and clicking this speaker icon to start monitoring the audio coming from the module. As a quick demonstration, I'll record only audio from a short section of this film. That didn't sound great, did it? It sounds like when you would talk or sing through a fan as a kid. Or maybe more recently, who knows? What you're hearing is rapid modulation of the audio frequencies caused by tiny variations in the film speed. Slower variations are known as wow, and these quicker ones are referred to as flutter. Most magnetic audio devices, like tape decks, use a pinch roller and a capstan connected to a heavy rotating flywheel to force the tape to travel at a smooth, continuous speed. Because the Axion scanner doesn't have a capstan drive, the driving force of the real motors transfers these tiny speed fluctuations into the film. These fluctuations are too small to even be felt by touch, but our ears are sensitive enough to hear their effects in the audio. But before we get too worried about wow and flutter, let's take a listen to that audio we just recorded. Sounds a lot better, doesn't it? Almost magically, what went in as garbled sounding input ended up as clean, straight audio coming out. So what happened to the wow and flutter? Remember that encoder wheel we saw earlier? As the scanner records audio, that encoder is very precisely measuring the speed of the film. The raw audio is saved at a very high sampling rate to a proprietary format we call CRA, along with that encoder data. Then, our speed-match dynamic sampling, or SMDS algorithm, can actually use that encoder data to losslessly resample the audio and remove the wow and flutter. Looking back here in AxionDirect, you can see that there are a few options relating to the SMDS processing, like the bit rate, the output sampling rate, and audio filters. Because we save the CRA as our raw file and apply the SMDS processing afterward, you actually have the ability to reprocess the CRA at any time you want and change these settings later on in AxionFlow. Another thing you may have noticed when we captured that audio recording before was that the image we saw and the audio we were hearing were not in sync. Like optical formats, magnetic formats have standard defined offsets between the image and the audio to compensate for physical separation between where the image and sound are played from in playback devices. It's a little more complicated this time because the Axion scanner's physical offset isn't the same as what's defined in the standard, but we have a table available that can show us how to compensate for this. If I do want to monitor the audio in sync while I capture the scan, this frame sync offset value will affect the sync in the camera capture viewer available in this secondary window here. The camera capture viewer can be monitored in full screen on a second monitor if you have one available.
Assez de Paris. Oh oui, je suis sur le chemin du paradis dans le train de nuit.
The main viewer will always display the camera image in real time. It's not critical that the audio appears in sync when you capture it, because you can always change how it syncs with the output video later. When I'm ready to start my main scan, I can use these checkboxes to link the start and stop of the audio recording to the start and stop of the image capture. In AxionFlow, I'll set all of my usual settings and selection boxes, of course excluding the optical soundtrack selection box that I used last time. When I select CRA as my audio format, it automatically finds the CRA file in my project folder and puts a calculated sync offset here based on the frame sync offset I used when I recorded the audio. I can revisit my SMDS settings in the menu here to set sampling rates and audio filters before processing the video output.
Je m'en vais vers le soleil dans le train de nuit. Où là-bas c'est le réveil dans le train de nuit. J'ai ma valise et mon billet pour le train de nuit. Je m'en vais, j'en ai assez de Paris. Oh oui, je suis sur le chemin du paradis dans le train de nuit.
Tomorrow, Houston Police Officer Carlos Elliott is expected to continue his testimony. Former police officers Glenn Brinkmeyer and Glenn Kinney will again be outside the courtroom, pacing the halls, waiting for their call to take the stand. Theirs is expected to be the most damaging testimony against their fellow former officers. Sharon Spear, Big 2 News in Huntsville.
There we go. Processed video with clean, synced audio just like we wanted. Now, for cases where I may want to reduce the amount of flutter in the recording before processing, I have the option of using low flutter mode. When I activate it here in AxionDirect, the real motor on the supply side will be locked, and only the motor on the take-up side will be active. I can then use this special low flutter nut, which has a thrust bearing inside, to carefully set how tightly the reel is clamped to the turntable. These plastic discs, which I already have behind the reel to adjust spacing, also serve to provide even, consistent drag between the reel and the locked turntable. Tightening and loosening the nut to adjust the film tension, I can greatly reduce the amount of flutter that's heard at the magnetic audio module. Here's what low flutter mode can sound like while recording before SMDS processing.
Je m'en vais vers le soleil dans le train de nuit. Où là-bas c'est le réveil dans le train de nuit. J'ai ma valise et mon billet pour le train de nuit. Je m'en vais, j'en ai assez de Paris. Oh oui, je suis sur le chemin du paradis dans le train de nuit.
As we can hear, the flutter has been almost completely eliminated at the source, which reduces the amount of processing that the SMDS algorithm has to do. Like we heard in the first example, it can often do a very good job even without low flutter mode, and low flutter mode is not required in every situation, but in certain cases where I want to have even cleaner sound going in before processing, I have this option at my disposal. Thanks for joining me once again for this look at magnetic soundtrack extraction. For more info about the Axion scanner, check out our website at cuimaging.com, and stay tuned for more videos like this where we take a closer look at more of the features and functions of the scanner.